is that it doesn't try to own and control everything. As much as we think that it is indeed a gigantic, horrible monopoly, it in fact doesn't own the world yet.
Yeah.
And what it does instead is that it allows us, it enables us to build the world. And so Mike Decker is here from About.com, and About.com gets, correct me if I'm wrong, Mike, about 80% of its traffic and about 50% of its ad revenue from Google.
Give or take.
But
Give or take.
Give or take.
Give or take.
Revealing no secrets. And in any other world, it would be owned by Google. It would be a division of Google. But instead, Google says, no, great, start a company, start a huge company, make a fortune. The better off you are, the better off we are. That's a different way to do business that just hasn't existed. So joining the network, creating a platform is key to this world. The idea that life is public, business is public, everything we do is public, is a whole other change, I think, in society that Google reflects. I'll get to in a minute. I love this line from Mark Zuckerberg at Facebook. I was at Davos 2 years ago, and one of the criticisms in my reviews is that I name dropped and place dropped, so I've just done it once. I'm going to do it again. It was at Davos, where Mark Zuckerberg was talking to a bunch of assembled media moguls, including one. Mark, it was off the record, but I asked Mark if I could quote him. I didn't ask the media mogul who works for a certain very large company here in town that has a new building that wishes it worked in Boston. And the media mogul was begging Zuckerberg, begging him, and saying, Mark, how do I get a community like you have? We should have a community like you do. We should build a community, own a community. How do we do it? How? And Zuckerberg's response in full was, you can't. Full stop, geeky stare. And he came back later and he said, you're asking the wrong question. The question should be, the community already exists. You don't create the community. How do you help that community do what it wants to do better? And the answer he gave is that you give it elegant organization, which is a line I love. In a sense, any good company or government or university or media company is an organizing principle for its community. And that's really what we have to be, and that's what Google is. The other key economic factor I think about Google and our world now is that it's not a scarcity-based economy anymore, where I control it, you don't, that lets me set the price and own the marketplace. Whereas Google, I believe, manages to abundance. If you think about it, search results are a scarcity. Only so many people search on a given word a given day, and Google could have, held us by the throat to that. Instead, they expanded the abundance by throwing AdWords and AdSense and getting words all around the web, and by not charging based on the scarcity, but instead charging on the basis of performance. That's a fundamentally different way to do business. I think it's also important to decide what business you're in now, and it's probably not the business you think you're in. I worked once upon a time for Time Warner. Time Warner merged disastrously with AOL, and I remain bitter about it to this day because my stock sucks. AOL did that because they asked themselves, what are we? And they said, well, we're an entertainment company, so we're going to merge with the movie studio. It was the wrong move. AOL should have stood back and said, well, what we really have is interactivity and community. They should have been Live World long ago. They should have been Facebook long ago. They asked the wrong question. And so in this world, we change the rules so fundamentally, we need to change the idea of what we are. I'll skip a few here. The other important thing about Google, I think, is, I'm very worshipful of Google in the book, I will fully confess. Google is not God, joke in the title aside. Google is not perfect. Google is also not very transparent. Google expects all of us to be transparent. If you want to be found on the web, you better be transparent. You better have all your stuff out there. Google doesn't, it doesn't have to. It doesn't reveal its ad splits. It doesn't reveal its Google News sources very well. It doesn't reveal some other things about its life. But it expects that of us. But, importantly, I think the fact that Google releases products as a beta, always, is a really important opening up of its process. What they're saying is, antithetical to the way we've always run a business, is that this product isn't complete, it isn't perfect, it isn't finished, it's got mistakes. Fix it for us. Tell us what it needs to be. And I think that's an important new way to do business that just hasn't happened. And that's a form of transparency that I think is vital that any company can use. Finally, last rule, I want to talk about is Craig Newmark, an investor in Daylight here. Craig's a good friend of ours. And Craig, when he started Craigslist, had one rule of life, which is get out of the way. We in business and in media especially have always been in the business of getting in the way. We're the middlemen. That's what we do for a living. But Craig got out of the way. He created this amazing tool. He had no idea it would destroy newspapers. He had no idea that after Katrina, people would come along and use it to find each other and jobs and homes and everything else. He didn't release, like Microsoft, a paperclip to tell you how to use it. He just said, here it is. Do what you want with it. And people did amazing things. So I took these laws and lessons and then came back around and tried to apply them to a bunch of industries that are not in technology, not on the internet, not in the business of Google. So, newspapers, I'll spare you my newspaper rants, and entertainment, and book publishing. And I must confess openly and every time that I am a complete and utter frigging hypocrite because I published a book. That's because that man over there gave me an advance. That's why I did it. If I had eaten my own dog food, I would have published this book online, digitally, so it was searchable and linkable and clickable and discussable and updatable and all these great things. But dogs got to eat. I took an advance. And book publishing still works in many ways. There's value to that. But I think we're going to see a change here where we're going to see a book become, like news, more of a process than a product. We're going to change it. I think Google is a bit of an avalanche. The internet is an avalanche. And the things that have been affected most are the things that are closest to Google. And so media and advertising are the first affected. Advertising isn't affected as much yet as it will be. And other industries down the mountain will get hit one by one by one. So I talk in the book about, somewhere here, about the Google Mobile, about the notion of a Google car. What would that be like? And the simple illustration there is that Google had opened up its design process years ago. How many of you would have told, Detroit had opened up their design process years ago. How many of you would have told them, would have wished for a 39-cent plug in the radio so you can plug in your iPods? You probably don't have cars, you're so maybe you have cars. I'm a Jersey guy, I'm a British guy. So, I hate this thing. Not to work. So I just speculated about the idea of an open source car, and I'll skip by that. And what I want to talk about now, we're going to turn this into a bit of a contest, is the idea of, a googly restaurant. Imagine, if you will, and I want you to imagine, a googly restaurant. Now, the first thing that comes to your mind's eye is probably someplace that is decorated in very garish primary colors, and it has M&Ms on every table, and you sit on big round balls, and the food's free. But I thought about it a little bit, and I thought, what if you go in the restaurant and it knew the value of the data that was produced by the room, by the dining room? So you open up the menu, and it has data on every single item there of how many people have ordered it. Well, that's why this place is known for the crab cakes. Mm-hmm. Yeah, okay, I'll have that too. See, I never had Hawaiian pizza. It sounds like crap, but 500 people can't be wrong. Okay, I'll order it, right? The data tells you something. And once you're there, how do you go to the next step and find out more data? So what if the crowd were the sommelier? What if the crowd said, basically, I ordered this dish with this wine and liked it, this wine with this dish and didn't like it? What's the value of that? What's the value of that in a larger network of restaurants? What if you take it a little farther and you take the recipes and put them online and allow the people to contribute to them? Now, I'm not suggesting that I want a restaurant by the crowd and the mob. I don't want the whole crowd to go into the kitchen and cook for me. I can't cook. I don't want to do that either. But if you go to Epicurious at Condé Nast, which I helped start years ago, and you look at some recipes, you find amazing contributions to what people are doing to improve the recipes. So what if a restaurant allowed you to improve the recipes? All right. So I want to ask you, Tom Dursick is going to give away, we have some books, thanks to HarperCollins. So he'll judge the best entries.
I will.
You will.
You will.
No, you will.
Okay.
You're not. Tom in Daylight, my partner in Daylight. So yell out, what do you